start recording this just in case some of us want copies of it after. The reason why we're doing this meeting today, everyone, is because, okay, welcome, Reverend Michael Bradley. It's good to have you along. We're doing this meeting today because now a lot of funders are requiring us to have management accounts. It's a new thing now. A lot of funding are asking for management accounts. They're asking for cash flow forecasts, but they're also asking for management accounts. And normally, I'm more conversant with doing cash flow forecasts because of my background in business, but management accounts is something that I just don't understand it, and then I just kind of avoid it because to me it sounds too similar to a cash flow forecast, but I know it's different. And anyway, but I feel that as a group of people who are constantly learning, it's necessary for us to be acquainted with the new requirements of funding, because sooner or later, you are going to be asked to produce a management account. And I didn't want us all to just run to our accountants and say, oh, accountant, give me a management account. You could do that, but that's not necessarily going to help you to understand why you are doing it. So we want to figure out why are the funders requiring us to have a management account? What does a management account do for us? And are there any benefits of a management account for us as an organization? And what can we learn from actually having management accounts? So as I thought about this, I then remembered, I said to myself, hang on a minute, Pastor Chuks is an accountant that has come to nearly all the meetings as much as possible. So I contacted him and I asked him if he wouldn't mind just sharing with us what a management account is and how we can get our heads around it and stuff. So, and I would recommend him as well as an accountant, because sometimes you may have an accountant, ask them for a management account, and they're going to take 3 weeks, 4 weeks to do it, and you never know, you might need Pastor Chuks at some point. So I think it's also good for us to hear from him. And this is a standard that we're going to extend to any one of us who is a regular attendee of the Masterclass. If you have anything to share, we will ask you to come and share with the whole group. As you noticed, I'm not the only one who speaks, because all of us have knowledge. So without further ado, I'm turning the floor over. I've taken 2 minutes to make the introduction. I'm turning the floor over to Pastor Chuks. But before I do that, I want to please remind you to manage your own audio. Now, what I want to suggest by Pastor Chuks' approval is that because we're finishing at 8, Pastor Chuks, after every 10 minutes or so, we would like to ask questions. And when somebody is speaking, please, if you're going to ask a question, please make your question succinct. Please don't tell us, I started the church in 2001 and then it grew, and then 2002, no. Just ask a question and let's go. So please, let's do that. Also, manage your audio. If you are around and there is noise in the background, please just mute your audio. And when you want to speak, you can then unmute your audio, or you can ask questions in the chat. The chat is one of the menu buttons at the bottom of your screen. So you can ask your questions there and we will get that and we will ask Pastor Chuks the questions. Okay, Pastor Chuks, God bless. Please take over.
Thank you, Pastor Bumi. Do appreciate this opportunity, and welcome and good evening to all our friends. I'm going to try now to share my screen and just basically talk a little bit about the topic on ground, which is the management accounts. In the meantime, can I ask you, if you kind of have an idea roughly what it is, please feel free to shout out your thoughts on what you consider management account to be, so that I kind of know where people are at and we know how we are going to approach this subject. So if anyone knows what that is, please let me know.
Anybody wants to try?
Is it a business
Anybody?
account?
Is it a
Sorry,
business account? Okay.
what was that? I didn't hear that.
Is it like a business account?
It's like, well, yes, it's a business account. Really, it's the difference with management accounts, which we're going to see, and I'm just going to talk us through this short PowerPoint presentation. The difference with a management account from other account is that you're able to observe what is going on in real time. So we're going to look at a few things here. What are the management accounts? Why do we need management accounts? How can it be useful to grow your organization with it? Making up-to-date informed decisions, measuring performance and key indicators, controlling cash flow, detecting fraud. My experience really comes, as Pastor Bumi mentioned, my experience comes from working in the accounting field. I run my own practice. We're doing that for about 17 years now. And I've worked with both banks. So when Pastor Bumi approached me about this idea, I thought it was a great idea because Pastor Bumi specializes with funding, and I've been working with banks in getting management accounts for them. A lot of our clients have mortgages with banks, and every 6 months, the banks ask for a management account for the client. So I work with about 500 so churches, and then we have some businesses and companies as well thrown in there. So many times these churches have this mortgage, and every 6 months they have to produce management accounts. So what are management accounts? So that's where we're going to go into. Well, they are financial statements which are prepared either monthly or quarterly. And basically it gives you insight into the running transactions of an organization. So what that basically means is that some people try to, whereas every organization or charity, church, company has to produce at the end of the financial year, they have to produce a financial statement, but it actually doesn't give a real indication as to the day-to-day transactions. So because somebody can just get a sudden injection of funds, let's say in a month, they get a sudden injection of, they've been doing like say £2,000 a month, and then they just get a sudden injection of say £20,000, and then it goes back to their normal £2,000 a month. And when you look at the yearly financial statements, you will think that, okay, their income is at this level, which means if their income is say 40,000 in a year, that means every year they're getting around 3,500. But whereas when you look at a management accounts, it drills in to show you that actually that cash injection is not the normal operation. It's a one-off situation. So a management account is more like watching your finances in real time. And we're going to talk about why that is important. Because it helps a lot of things. Actually, one of the things I put at the end there, it actually helps you detect if there are anything like fraud going on. I had one particular story that I'll share with you. I was doing accounts for a particular church, and we didn't know that the treasurer was siphoning money to Nigeria to pay for his wedding. And nobody knew what was going on because they never did management accounts. It was only at the end of the financial year, when you come to do your accounts at the end of the financial year, you're given another 9 to 10 months before your deadline.
Yeah.
So we only got to find out what was going on maybe 20 months after this guy had been doing this. And by that time, the guy had skipped the country. He had skipped church and skipped the country. And so it took the pastor just under 2 years to actually figure out what was going on with the church books.
It was a
He
Judas.
never did. Sorry?
It was a Judas.
Well, you could say that. But the fact is, because he wasn't doing management accounts, he couldn't detect the financial transactions on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis, on a quarter-to-quarter basis. So that's what a management account is doing. It's showing you transactions that's going on a month-to-month basis, on a week-to-week basis. You can track it, and so you can make better decisions. and which I think is quite important.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps. I've got here. It kind of helps with monitoring performance. So I've got kind of roughly of what a management accounts looks like, the main body of it, which is tracking transactions on a monthly basis. So usually what would happen is that the funder or the bank will say, give us a management account for the next 6 months, or they may say, give us a management account for the next 12 months. And for every month, you break down your income and your expenses, and they will be able to see whether you can afford. If it's a bank, they will see what your affordability is like, because at the end of the day, you will do a cash flow. So what I'm showing here is what they call a cash flow. And the cash flow will either show every month you're positive, which means that you are in the black, you're having some funds reserves at the end of every month, or it will show that you're in the red, which is your deficit. And that would help the bank, the funders, track and make decisions based on what you can afford. So I put here that it helps to monitor your performance. It also helps you to monitor regularly what is happening rather than just once a year. Banks and funders use it to track and project funds. One of my clients is used to be, and I say used to be because I told them that I don't want to work with them anymore. But that is CAF Bank. CAF Bank is the banking arm of Charities Aid Foundation, and they have a bank. So they were offering mortgages to churches and charities. So they approached us and said, listen, we want you to be able to do this management account and cash flow so that it will help us to see whether these guys can afford this mortgage that they want. And so this is what we're doing for them for quite some time. So this is what they look at. So lots of organizations, charities now, when you go to a bank for a loan or a mortgage, this is what they're looking at. And I know Pastor Bomi has also reminded us about the funders as well. They're asking more and more for this. So how does it help you grow your organization? Because when you have management accounts, it helps you identify trends quickly. So you're getting access to information very fast that perhaps on other occasions, you'll have to wait a year to get access to that information. So it helps with saving. It helps with you knowing what not to pour your money into. I did some management accounts for a church, and they realized that during their conference, their income will shoot up, but then it will come down during certain times where they found themselves, well, they had to cut back because it was almost like wasting money. I won't say it was waste. They found that they could make better decisions because they could see clearly in real time where the money was going and when the money was coming in. So that's what some people use to kind of grow their organization and think, okay, this project seems to be more productive because we can see from the books what is happening. So we're going to grow, or we're going to focus more on this project as opposed to the other project that seems to be draining us. So that's kind of giving us an indication of what management accounts does. So I'm going to stop there. That's 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I'm welcome to any questions.
Yes, please. Do you want to come out of sharing, please?
Yes, I'll come out.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Sorry, just trying to. Here we go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Sister Josephine. Welcome, Pastor Ola. Welcome, Bishop Ola. Thank you. Welcome. And yeah, Pastor.
Yeah, blessings.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions, please, for Pastor Chuks?
Okay.
Because anyone? Okay, I have one question, Pastor Chuks, and this is an area of confusion. What's the difference between the management accounts and the cash flow forecast? because a funder recently requested both. They wanted a cash flow forecast for 6 months, and they also wanted a management account.
Right. The
Yeah.
management accounts is really like the package. So it has within it profit and loss, balance sheet, and then cash flow.
All right.
Now, I've also realized that sometimes people are asking for what they're using the wrong terminology. And I realized that even with some of the banks, when they ask for management accounts, all they actually want is a cash flow. Whereas you have some people that ask for management accounts and they actually want the full whack, which is the profit and loss, balance sheet, and then cash flow at the end. So that is the whole package of what management accounts is for a shorter time period.
Right. Thank you so much. That's just a deliverance right there.
Yeah.
Every time I've looked at it, I was like, that's like a cash flow, man. But hey, I'm like,
Yes.
not an accountant. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, or what questions do we have, please, for Pastor Chuks on this subject? Because this is a very interesting subject, and I think all of us need to be acquainted with it. Okay, there's no questions at the moment. Let's progress. Thank you.
Right. I'll say a quick hello to my sister there from Family Life Christian Center. God bless you.
Oh, right.
Yes, God bless you. Okay, so I'm going to go right back. Just bear with me yeah, here we go. Okay, so we've said that management accounts helps to identify trends so that you can have better information for planning, growth, diversity. I mean, it's a good way actually of, even if you use it for your own personal finances, Pastor, it's a good way of budgeting. And you're actually able to plan better for the future. So what I've said here is it's excellent for making up-to-date informed decisions. The idea and the emphasis is real time. Real time. Real time means you're able to take actions quickly. You're able to access opportunities quickly while it is there, rather than waiting till the end of the year. And then when you come to do it, you realize, oh, we could have done this 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Or we could have done this 3 months ago. So it's about taking action immediately. That's where the management accounts comes in. Measuring performance. It gives you an up-to-date measure of how you are doing. Once again, it gives you speedy responses, speedy indicators of how you are doing. You can cut back, you can increase, cut back spending in certain areas. It helps you manage you use the word cash flow, which is what it's really about. The core benefit is cash flow. The core benefit of management accounts is cash flow.
Okay.
It is to see how you manage cash flow. So funders want to see how you manage cash flow. The fact that you have a great income does not mean that it would excite funders or it would excite the bank to want to lend you money. They want to see, for instance, I'll give you an example. A particular church that we do, every 6 months, we produce a management accounts for Unity Trust Bank. So Unity Trust Bank, one of their conditions for giving a mortgage, every 6 months, they have to see the management accounts. If they don't see it on time, they would fine them by increasing the rate at which they are paying back the loan. So they need to return it by management account by a certain time. If not, that rate they put on it will not increase. So what are they looking for? They want to see how the cash flow is doing. So for the first 6 months, January to July, they want to see what's happening. Did you have a reserve in January? Did you have a deficit? And so it kind of tracks. And at the end of the day, they want to see whether you can afford, for instance, the church that was applying for a mortgage, I think it was at that time was £385,000 mortgage. So when they worked out their repayment terms, they realized that the repayment was going to be around 2.5. I'm just giving an estimate. It was going to be around 2,500 a month they were paying. And so when they were looking at the management accounts, they wanted to see at the end of each month, do you have £2,500 spare to afford that mortgage?
Okay.
So that is not information you get from end of year accounts. End of year accounts gives you what happens at the end of the year, but mortgage repayments are done monthly. So they want to see on a monthly basis, do you have that £2,500 available to be able to afford a mortgage? So that's how they were tracking it, and that's why they wanted management accounts.
Okay.
All right. So great way of budgeting. Management accounts helps us to cut out unnecessary outgoings, helping you to get the best value for your money, best value of what you are paying or what you're spending. And it's a great way of helping you spot, like we mentioned before, where the money is going. Okay. And of course, lastly, excuse me, it's a great way of helping you identify if there's any malpractice going on. And the longer time between finances being reviewed, they say, the statistician says that it gives a greater chance of fraudulent activity going undetected. And so hence the story I brought in earlier. So it helps, it acts as a check and balance so that you are kind of being monitoring, and you also have certain checks in place to stop things being misused or being abused. So I think we did it in half an hour. So I think that's within the time you gave me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bless you. Okay, I would like us to ask Pastor Chuks some questions around this subject, please. That's what the rest of the time before 8 o'clock is for us to now ask questions.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Pastor Jay,
Yes.
please go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to find out what is the best period. Is it like quarterly or monthly? Which one is better to be doing?
Okay. Are you talking in regard to yourself, or from your perspective, or from the perspective of the funder, or from the perspective of the bank?
Personally, I think from my own perspective at the moment, because yeah.
Okay. From your perspective, a monthly is the best one, I think.
Okay.
The reason why I say that is because you have, even in a month, you can have up to 20 to 25 transactions that can take place with your bank statements. And the more transactions you have, then the more you need to have checks and balances to monitor that. And especially with churches, you know, an average church will have offerings maybe twice a week. So that in itself is 8 transactions of going in. And then you have people that will pay in at regular times. And then you've got expenses going on through the week. And before you know it, at the end of the month, you've got about 20 transactions going on. So to kind of keep an eye on things, it's healthy to have it every month.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Chuks.
Thank you.
Sister Josephine, did you have a question? Go ahead.
You're still on mute, sister.
You're on mute. You're on mute. Please unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead.
What is the best program to use for tracking accounts on a monthly basis? What program would you advise?
Okay. Basically, it depends on what the ministry can afford, and also it depends on how you want to track it. There are some free softwares that are available. There's one called Wave. which you can get online, and that can even help you track things quite well. It's called Wave, W-A-V-E. If you want something a bit more sophisticated, there is other softwares like Xero, X-E-R-O. So these things can actually, you can actually make inputs on a kind of weekly basis, and they'll be giving you reports monthly and quarterly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Josephine. Thank you, Pastor Chuks. That's such an insightful answers that you've given us. Thank you. Okay. One question, by the way, if you want to, you can ask Pastor Chuks questions inside the chat box, and we would endeavor to ask him those as well. And if you have any more questions too, even though you may have spoken, you will have the opportunity to ask again. I see that Sister Josephine has unmuted herself. Do you have another question?
No, that was my question.
That was a question. Okay. So, Pastor Chuks, one thing I wanted to say, and I wanted to find out from all of us if you think it will be of benefit, when Pastor Chuks was giving us an example, he gave an example of Unity Trust Bank and churches buying their buildings. So I just wonder whether we should actually bring him back to come and talk to us about how to prepare yourself if you're going to buy a building in the future, or what mortgage companies are going to be looking for, how to, things around buying a building. I wonder, can everyone please, if you would like Pastor Chuks to talk to us about that, could you please indicate by saying yes or thumbs up or something in the chat so that we can know whether to bring him back? Thank you, Sir Josephine. You're putting your hand up for that. Thank you. That'll be useful. Anyone else?
I see a Paul.
Yes, Pastor Paul. Yes. Yes, Reverend Ola, Apostle Ola. Yes, Tower of Light. Okay, Pastor Chuks. Okay, thank you, Pastor Chuks. We're going to have you back to please help us out, because quite a few churches would like one day to buy their buildings, and it seems as though, which I didn't know, that you actually have a very strong expertise in helping churches to acquire mortgages and buy buildings. So we're going to need you back, hopefully in the new year or so, to please do another session for us, another insightful one like this for us to learn, please. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Can I just add quickly, Pastor Bumi, that COVID is actually going to help work favorably for churches in the coming years when it comes to buying buildings, because already a lot of landlords are getting nervous because a lot of people are moving back in, working from home, and things working from home has created lots of buildings that are becoming vacant. And so it's going to force prices down. And I think this is a great time for churches to prepare.
Praise God. Thank you. That's why we're here. That's why I love this. I love this. Praise God. I love this. Bless you. Thank you so much. Someone has put, maybe is that a question in the chat? Okay, Pastor Paul said amen. Okay. One question I wanted to ask you, please. Yes. You gave us an example of a church which the treasurer was the one actually siphoning some money off the church's account. Now, as a pastor, some of us are pastors here and bishops and so. When a pastor is really busy doing all kinds of stuff and he has to entrust, or she or he has to entrust the accounts to a church member and stuff like that, how do you think we should manage those types of relationships in practice? Can you give us some practical tips on what one can do?
Well, Pastor Bumi, first of all, thank you for that. That's an excellent question. This is one of the things I was actually thinking about when I was preparing for today, because in dealing with different churches, I've seen two extremes. I've seen one extreme where the pastor says, I am the visionary of the church. I don't want to have anything to do with money. I just don't want to discuss money. I'm going to put somebody in charge of it and I don't know what's happening. That to me is a recipe for disaster based on that. And I can give you example after example. I can give you example of people that the pastor said that to, and the people took over managing the money. And then the pastor preached a message. They weren't happy. They decided they're leaving the church, and they took the church checkbooks with them. And the church could not pay their rent. The church had to move out of the building because the person was offended and at home sitting on the church checkbooks. So that is one extreme example that I have actually seen practically, and I've seen a lot of things happen. Another particular pastor, he told me that, okay, this is the man that's going to manage the money. And I spoke with this guy for a few months. I went back to the pastor and I said, I don't mean to be critical about the people you appoint, but I think something is wrong. I think you should at least have an oversight over this guy, because something doesn't seem right the way the guy is talking. Once again, the pastor didn't want to know. Similar thing happened again. The guy got offended over something, left the church, took the passwords, took the codes with him, and it became another mess. And we had to call HMRC, call all the different people to try to retrieve codes and all the rest of it. So I think having kind of worked with churches in this finance capacity for about 17 plus years, I think there is a balance. There is a balance to something like this. Yes, I do respect the fact that the visioneer does not need to be kind of have both hands in the offering pot in terms of counting the money. Yes, I do understand that, but I still think he needs to have a level of oversight to actually know what is happening. And where people are appointed, I think those people need to be producing reports regularly and with confirmatory material to verify how things are, how transactions are going on and how things are moving. I think to have a totally hands-off approach is very dangerous indeed, especially in these times.
Thank you so much. And of course, the other extreme is what you said, where the pastor is just on their back all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Possibly my friend Pastor Manas is also here. So
Pastor Manas said, thank you so much. It's good to see you. Do you have a question for your friend, Pastor Chuks? Or you will ask after the meeting? Which one is it?
Thank you so much. The Lord bless you. At the moment, I have no questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else has a question before I ask my own question? Do you have a question? Please.
I see something, Tower of Life.
Tower of Life, please go ahead. You have your hand up. Tower of Life, are you?
No question now.
Okay. So, Pastor Chuks, here's a question. When funders look at an organization's perhaps a cash flow forecast, and they see a deficit, how does that affect the minds of banks and funders, do you think, in your opinion?
Well, I think the the thing about that is that's what they're looking for, to see, can these people manage the money we're about to give them? And what happens, we've had situations where the banks have seen deficits and they've just begin to ask a barrage of questions. And I think it's not the it's not the death or burial of that application because there is a deficit. I think as long as you can intelligently argue your situation, because as well as not wanting to see deficits, they are also aware there are things that can happen that are unforeseen. The church operates principally by faith. You do not determine who or what happens. So we've had issues where we've been honest to tell them, listen, on this particular, especially with the pandemic, the pandemic, obviously nobody saw this in that respect coming in. So churches had to make adjustments, and churches had to, call on some other ways of, operating. But I think once that there is verifiable understandable reasons as to why that is, then that will not be a problem. I think what is important is the management accounts for us, from our perspective, is we have to be honest to look at it and actually ask ourselves certain questions. It's okay to say to the funder, well, initially we thought that this project was going to work, but we've learned from it. That's why you've seen a deficit. We've learned from it, and these are the controls we've put in place so it doesn't happen again. I think those things are being honest to recognize where there is a weakness and show what you have done to strengthen it so it doesn't repeat itself.
Thank you so much. Bless you. Bless you. Any other question for Pastor Chuks?
Hi, one more question, please.
Yes, go
a quick one, please. Like the accounts of the church, making the account of the church, is it wise that we separate the account from the funders?
From the grant, you mean?
Yeah, from the grants. Should we be separating them, or we just doesn't matter, You
mean in terms of the accounts, as in account number, this for that?
Yes. Like for instance, if we get a grant now, should we do those accounts separately, or we just do them together with the offerings and tithes and everything?
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Actually, what happens when you receive grants is they're called restricted fund. So a grant means that the money can only be spent for that particular project. Pastor Bumi, I think that's what you guys do.
Most of the time it's like that. Sometimes unrestricted, but most of the time it is restricted.
So what happens is when you're doing the accounts for the church, you need to state, basically, you need to include those grants. But if it is restricted, in the accounts, you will have a restricted column. You will have a restricted funding heading, and then restricted expenses to match that funding. Now, if the grant is unrestricted, you can just put it together with the tithes and offerings as income, because there is no requirement to keep it separate. So it depends on the type of grant you're receiving. When the COVID came in, I know that there were certain organizations that were given grants by the council. Now, those grants actually were unrestricted. They didn't actually put a restriction on what they should be used for. So in such situations, those grants will be just termed as other types of income. So, but then the money will be put together with what you're doing and the expenses. But if you receive something like the lottery funding, then you must keep that separate. You will account for it together, but it will be separate in the group of accounting requirements that you're doing.
Yeah.
Very much.
Thank you, Pastor James. Does anybody else have a question before I ask my? Okay. Yeah, Pastor Chuks. One thing has always bothered me about accountants, and about you lot. No, that's just a joke about accountants. And I've wondered that most accountants only do accounts. They don't offer advice. For example, they don't offer management advice. Is it because we are not paying for it, or is it just the way it is? What is it? Because I think management advice would be very helpful instructions to help somebody who runs an organization manage the organization, as opposed to, okay, here's your final accounts end of year. Okay, we'll submit it to Companies House. We'll submit it to Charity Commission. God bless you. Oh, next year, it's nah. Please, sir.
Yeah.
Light it.
That's not all accountants, thankfully. We do advice consultation as well, management wise. We do a lot of that actually. But I think what it is that you will find that different accountants specialize in different areas.
Okay.
And there are people that their job is just simply to do the books and then just get it off.
Okay.
And they do not have any other service attached to that.
Okay.
And then you've got some people who are just specialists in certain fields. I work with several other accountants who are not specialists when it comes to charity, so they call upon me to come and help them. So as a result, we have networks.
Okay.
So it really depends on the expertise of the person.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Pastor Paul.
Yes, thank you very much.
Bless you. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Pastor Chuks.
Thank
that was very insightful. Now, I asked a question earlier on, and I said, is it therefore the most advisable practical thing to open a separate account for grants so that there will not be a mix-up? Is that what you? That's the first question. The second question is, you talked about the Unity Trust Bank. Is it only Unity Trust Bank that you deal with? Because I know with my Vantage position in CTE, I know that there's this Black-led credit union called Pentecostal Credit Union. Have you had any dealing with them? Are they better than the high street ones and vice versa? Or what can you advise, please?
Thank you. Very good question, Pastor Paul.
Thank you, Pastor Paul, for those insightful questions. I'll be honest with you. I've heard of the Pentecostal Credit Union. I would need to see the terms that they are offering to be able to advise you whether they are better or not.
Okay.
I haven't seen their terms. I haven't seen the conditions. And what we tend to do is Unity Trust is not the only bank we've operated with.
Okay.
We've operated with an array of different banks.
Okay.
The reason I left working with, when I say working with, I mean recommending and assisting to get mortgages with people like Barclays and Lloyds, was because they were very unreasonable in the way they were treating churches at some point. So some churches actually, rather than stick with a charity registration, they'll go and register with Companies House, and for the sake of trying to get the mortgage using a company entity. So when I came across these other banks, CAF Bank, Unity Trust Bank, and there's another one called Charity Bank as well, who were very happy to lend to charities without them having to change their structure at all. I kind of lost interest with the other guys. But you've made a very, very, very good comment, which I think it's something that churches should adopt, is having a separate bank account for grants, because it takes a lot of discipline to keep it separate if they're all in the same account. It takes, I mean, when grant money comes in and you have to pay rent, and you've got to pay a few £1,000s rent, and in your normal money, the money to get that rent to go, whatever, it's very easy to start dipping into different places. So I think it's a good discipline to have a separate account where your grant money goes, and I think it's good. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. Pastor Bumi, I don't know whether from a grant perspective they don't like that or what.
You're right. Now, sorry, please. Sorry, Pastor Chuks and Pastor Bumi. Do you therefore advise, just for this discussion reasons, please, do you now advise that we could open an account with Unity Trust Bank so that you could make things better for us if we come back to you that we need your assistance to get a mortgage for building?
Okay, yeah, you could do that. But I would say that is not the main. If you're looking at a mortgage, that is not the main condition. The main condition is the deposit. And so if you have the deposit, whether you have an account with them, they will be very happy to work with you.
Okay then. All right. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. Thanks for your patience.
Pastor Chuks, do you want to put up a slide with your contact details on it, please?
Okay, I can do that.
Whilst you're doing that, Pastor Chuks, a question. Does anybody have another question for Pastor Chuks?
I'll put in the chat box my website address and details.
Yes. Okay. Yes. One other thing to expand on what Pastor was asking us. Yeah, just 1 minute, please. Just one.
Excuse me.
You'll be next. Just to expand on what Pastor Paul was asking and what Pastor James was talking about in terms of the accounts. Yes, it is good practice for, as Pastor Chuks was advising us, to have a different bank account, as in bank account number for the grants. However, grant funders do not require you. I've not seen a grant funder requiring you to do so. If you don't have it right now, you are not doing anything that is illegal or untoward, because they don't require you to have that. If they did, they would put it in their conditions. But going forward, as soon as you can, if you want to go that way, then please do have a separate bank account. I just don't want us to be overly concerned more than we need to. Okay, thank you. Tower of Life Ministries, please.
Okay, you have almost said what I wanted to ask.
Oh.
But what I want to say is that this account now, for instance, that somebody has been given a grant already, how do you separate it from the church account if you're already working with the money? Yes, and now, how will the church handle the grant money and the church money with an accountant? Because the accountant need to submit annual report. So will he submit this funding own differently, and the church own differently?
Okay, Pastor, did you understand what?
Yes, absolutely, yes. Well, I'm guessing that the church is a registered charity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if the church is a registered charity, then yes, you will submit it together with the money that came from the grant. In fact, when you file your annual returns, it does ask you those questions about income received. So when you do your accounts, you do include the money from the grant. It's just that you will account for it separately under restrictive funding, if it's the restricted fund that you've been given. But yes, you would account for that as well together.
So sorry, sir. What I'm saying is that during the annual report account, then will the accountant submit it differently, or because normally, like we used to have one annual account report.
Yes.
Now, then if you have two accounts.
Oh, okay.
Okay, no. He's not submitting it differently. He's including it.
No, can I answer that actually?
Yes, go on.
National point of view, but just for clarity purposes.
Yes.
What the man of God is saying is, when we were saying having another account for the grant, man of God, we were thinking that is the annual accounts as well. No, we're just saying have a separate bank account number.
Oh, okay.
Grant, that's what we're saying. However, all the money that comes into your organization, both grant and tithe and offering, they all together go into the financial account that your accountant submits at the end of the year. We were just saying earlier on, the questions that were asked by Pastor James and Pastor Paul was about whether they should have a separate bank account number for the grant. That's all it is. Do you understand now, Tower of Life?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Pastor Chuck's number. Thank you so much. Apostle Ola, thank you. Pastor Chuck's details are there on screen in the chat for you to reach out to him if you wanted to. As we're coming to the close of the evening, I will let you know whether we're going to do any final masterclass next month, because if our masterclass falls right into the Christmas period. And I'll also let you know when Pastor Chuks is coming back to talk to us about mortgages. Pastor Chuks, please, I beg you, please. That topic is really good. We really need to hear about that. I get churches asking me that all the time because I do funding. They ask me around mortgage. I'm like, I don't know how to, do this thing. So thank God that you even spoken about it. So maybe if we can talk, please, after the course finishes, to give me an indication where you might be able to do it. If you can do it in January, I would really love it. So we start the year with you showing us how to go and buy buildings and helping us to acquire buildings in January. That would be really fantastic. But also, I like to tell everybody that from us at School of Social Sustainability, we may be requiring you to send us new bank statements for funding, because the funding arena is about to change again. So please, if you have if you get a text from us or an email from us, please respond promptly. Also, we want to thank everybody who has been part of this journey this year. It's been such an insightful time, such a great time to have you all along. And I really want to thank everyone that has attended the masterclass that we've been doing for the past few months. I think this masterclass has been really, really good for me to see you all being educated and inspired and encouraged and enriched with such quality like we have heard tonight from Pastor Chuks. So if we do not meet at December, I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas and a wonderful, prosperous New Year. The Lord told us this year that this is our own season to prosper, and I'm releasing that same prophetic word over you, that this is your season to prosper. Yes,
Amen.
indeed.
Amen.
Your season to prosper. Honestly,
Amen.
this is your season to prosper. Pastor,
Amen.
an indication when he said to us that buildings are being made empty right now. God is using God did not bring coronavirus, but God is using coronavirus to improve us. Some of us knew nothing about being online until coronavirus came, and we have changed the way we do ministry. We have learned so much. No, God is good. The Bible says all things are for good for those who love God and have been called according to his purpose. For those who called, they also predestined. God has predestined you. God has called you. God has glorified you. Prosper this season in the name of Jesus. God,
amen.
Thanks so much, Pastor Chuks. Let's put our hands together for Pastor Chuks.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Chuks.
Pastor Chuks,
God bless you.
see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Online, please.
Thank you very much, Pastor Chuks and Pastor Bumi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Bumi.
Thank you so much.
Pastor Chuks, thank you very
Pastor
much.
Bumi, for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor. The Lord bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Bumi and Pastor Chuks.
God bless you. Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bless you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
4.